Hello friends, welcome to VOWIAS. Welcome to the Vision Polity PT365 discussion. So as you know, the PT365 document of all the subjects plays a very important role in the life of all the aspirants. It helps us to prepare the last 1 year current affairs in a much greater way, in a much broader way. Because as you know, UPSC is asking questions with a greater depth, and this document helps us to prepare the current affairs in that depth, in that required depth. And we here at VOWIAS are providing you the summary of this PT365 document. So before we begin, I would just like to inform you about the initiatives that VOWIAS has launched. VOWIAS is providing the Vision Prelims Test Series summary and Vision PT365 summary. So if you join our Telegram channel, whose details I have given in the description, there you're going to get these summaries in the JPEG format, that is in the image format, at free of cost. At free of cost. But if you want this summary in the PDF format, then you have to subscribe to the course. Okay? So the details of this subscription I've given here, and also they're available in the Telegram channel. So if you join our Telegram channel, you can get access to this. Also, daily we are providing 5 current affairs based MCQs, and these MCQs will help you to prepare for the prelims in a much better way. Okay? So now we will begin with the discussion. So this is part 1 of the Polity PT365. So in this part 1, we are going to discuss the first chapter, and the first chapter is issues related to the Constitution. Issues related to the Constitution. And here 1.1, the first topic is about the basic structure. So last year in September 2020, Keshwananda Bharati, who is the important person when we talk about this basic structure, he is the one who has filed a case in the Supreme Court, and this Keshwananda Bharati judgment came into picture. So he died in September 2020, and this basic structure is now important for us from the examination point of view. Okay. So now we will see what exactly is this basic structure. We will see the evolution of this basic structure, and we will see why actually this case is filed. What is the main cause or main reason behind this case? We will see all of that in detail. So if you see this case initially, Keshwananda Bharati, who is a saint, who is heading a mutt in Kerala, he has filed a case in the Supreme Court as the Kerala Land Reforms Act of 1963 is violating the fundamental rights which are enshrined in the Constitution in the form of Article 25, 26 and 31. As you know, initially Article 31 is something which talks about the right to property is a fundamental right. Is a fundamental right. But with the 44th Constitutional Amendment Act, we have made this right to property as a mere constitutional right, and we have removed it from the fundamental rights. Okay. So initially during the time of independence, one of the main challenge for India is the land reforms, because during the British time we had many kinds of systems like the Zamindari system and others, the Zamindari system, the Mahalwari system and others. So with those systems, what happened is, because of those systems, what happened is the land got concentrated only with the few people, only with a few people. And in order to ensure that there is equitable distribution of land, there is always a need of land reforms. And the government through various legislations has tried to implement these land reforms. But there is one article that has come into the way of the implementation of land reforms in the initial phase after the formation of Indian Constitution. It was the Article 31. Because this Article 31 is something which gives fundamental right, which says that the right to property is a fundamental right to all the people. But but if the government violates this fundamental right, what is going to happen? The people can approach the Supreme Court under Article 32, because the Constitution gives people the right to approach Supreme Court or the High Court if their fundamental rights are violated. So the courts can issue writs if the fundamental rights of the people are violated under Article 32. The Kerala government, through the Kerala Land Reform Act of 1963, wanted to do this, wanted to carry on the land reforms. So in that, what they've mentioned is the temple lands or the lands under the temple are going to be managed by the government itself. So the lands which are under the temple are now taken by the government. And Keshwananda Bharati has approached the Supreme Court, because this is violating Article 25, which talks about the right to religion, Article 26, the right to manage religious affairs, and Article 31, the right to property. So this is where this case, the Keshwananda Bharati versus Union of India, started. Okay. So if you see the timeline of this basic structure revolution, you will understand this whole concept in a much greater way. Now we will see that. Now we will see this whole timeline. So initially in 1951, in the Sajjan Singh case, yeah, just a moment. In 1951, this is not 1961. In the Shankari Prasad, not Sajjan Singh, in the Shankari Prasad case, the Supreme Court said that Parliament can amend any part of the Constitution, including fundamental rights. So why the Supreme Court said this is because there is this article called Article 13, which say that any law which is not in line with the fundamental rights, any law which is not in line with the fundamental rights is null and void. Now here there comes a question. Law means a law made by the executive, that is the executive law, or a law made by the parliament, that is a legislative law with a amendment, or any law. So this is the question that has arisen, or any fundamental right. So when this question came, there is always a difference between the perception of the court and the government. The government says that this law, which the Article 13 talks about, it is talking only about the executive law, and it is not talking about something that is made by the parliament, a law made by the parliament by the amendment under Article 368, because Article 368 is a amending power given to the parliament. Okay, so there is a difference in the perception of this article. This was also solved by the Keshwananda Bharati case. Okay, so even in the Sajjan Singh case, the Supreme Court said that Parliament can amend any part of the Constitution, including the fundamental rights. So Supreme Court said that. But in the Golaknath case, the Supreme Court reversed its earlier judgment. The Golaknath case in 1967, the Supreme Court reversed its earlier judgment. The Supreme Court said that Article 368 do not confer the amending power to the Parliament. So the Parliament cannot amend the fundamental rights because they are fundamental to the governance of the country. The fundamental rights, and these fundamental rights are so basic that they ensure that the citizens of the country will enjoy all the rights. They enjoy all the political rights. So the fundamental rights are very important for the citizens of the country. So they cannot be amended is what said by the Supreme Court in the Golaknath case. To reverse this judgment of the Supreme Court in 1971, the government of India has passed the 24th Constitutional Amendment Act, where in this law it is mentioned that the constitutional amending power of the government, the constitutional amending power of the parliament, in fact, okay, it can amend any part of the constitution. It can amend any part of the constitution, and Article 13 do not come in its way. And Article 13 do not come in its way is what said by the 24th Constitutional Amendment Act. And almost it is reiterated by the 25th Constitutional Amendment Act, where it has curtailed the right to property with due compensation. And it also said that the DPSPs, which talks about the social and economic justice, they precede over the fundamental rights. And also this took away the judicial review. Now the matter went to the Supreme Court. Because judicial review, something is very important, because it is this judicial review that is protecting the people. So it's very important. And now the matter went to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court is reviewing everything with the 13-judge constitutional bench. This is one of the highest, you can say. This 13-judge constitutional bench in the Keshwananda Bharati case versus Union of India. Okay. So in this Keshwananda Bharati case, Supreme Court said that Parliament can amend any part of the Constitution. The only condition is that it should not change the basic structure. So Supreme Court now gave this concept of basic structure. Okay, and this basic structure kept on evolving with various judgments that the Supreme Court passed over time. So now the Supreme Court can amend, or sorry, the Parliament can amend any part of the Constitution is said by the Supreme Court. Also, in this 25th Constitutional Amendment Act, which took away the judicial review, the Supreme Court quashed it. Supreme Court said that no, judicial review is part of the basic structure. So you cannot take away the basic structure, or you can say you cannot take away the judicial review, which is part of the basic structure, from the judiciary. Okay, so Supreme Court has taken this, and Supreme Court said that the preamble is now part of the Constitution and it can be amended by the Parliament. Okay, so this is what is the broad line what the Supreme Court said in the Keshavananda Bharati case, and it gave the basic structure. Now we will see what this basic structure, what are the components of this basic structure, because when a question is asked in the prelims, there can be a direct question on these elements of the basic structure. So it is important for us to know about these elements. Okay, the first is sovereignty of India. Sovereignty means no one above us, no one below us. Like India is sovereign in its decision making and it can take every decision on its own. India is not dependent on any other country or any other person. Okay, so India is sovereign. And next one, essential features of individual freedom secured to citizens. Okay, so it talks about the right to freedom. And next one is the welfare state. The welfare state is talked about in the DPSPs. The DPSP talk about a welfare state, because welfare to the people has to be the aim of any government. So this is also part of the basic structure. Next, supremacy of the Constitution. That means the Constitution is supreme. Nothing is above the Constitution of India. No one is above the Constitution. Everyone has to abide by the Constitution. So supremacy of the Constitution. The republic and democratic form of the government. So Indian Constitution basically say that the India is a republic and a democratic form of government. So we should have an elected president and a elected government as the executive head. Okay, and also the character, if you see, it is said that in the basic structure, India is a secular and a federal country. India is a secular and a federal country, and also there has to be separation of powers between legislature, executive, and judiciary, because the legislature, executive, and judiciary, all the three are very important for us, and there has to be separation of powers so that all the functioning in the country takes place more effectively. Okay, and also unity and integrity of the nation, the power of judicial review. So power of judicial review means the judiciary has the power to review anything, any constitutional amendment, any law, or any decision taken can be reviewed by the judiciary. Only when it is reviewed by the judiciary, then people can get total justice. And also there has to be a harmony between the fundamental right and DPSP. So in this 25th Constitutional Amendment Act, the government said that there is precedence of DPSP over the fundamental rights. That means the directive principles were given a much higher status over the fundamental rights. That means for the implementation of directive principles, the fundamental rights can be curtailed. But the fundamental rights are also very important for the people. So that is the reason the Supreme Court said that there has to be harmony between fundamental rights and DPSP, and this is part of the basic structure. Next is parliamentary system. That means we should have a Lok Sabha and a Rajya Sabha. And the rule of law. Rule of law means law should be ruling. There should not be any arbitrariness in the law. Everyone is equal before law, and the law is applied equally to everyone in similar situations, which is given also in the Article 14. So this is a part of the basic structure. And the other elements, if you see, the principle of equality, which is being talked in the fundamental rights, the free and fair elections. This is the basic for the democracy. This is the basis for any democracy. Independence of judiciary. Using this only, the independence of judiciary, the Supreme Court quashed the NJAC, the National Judiciary Appointments Commission. So this was quashed by the judiciary. Okay, and also Supreme Court say that the limited power of Parliament to amend the Constitution. That means there are limitations on the Parliament for amending the Constitution. Though Parliament can amend any part of the Constitution, but there are certain limits on the Parliament also. Effective access to justice, principles underlying the fundamental rights, the powers of Supreme Court under Article 32, 136, 141, and 142, powers of High Court under Article 226 and 227. So what are these powers and all? You can see in the chapter of the Supreme Court and High Court. So now we are not going to discuss these things. Okay, but remember these things, these different elements, because there can be a potential question on these elements. So these elements will become important for us. Okay, right. Now we'll move on to the next article. The next article is about the next important topic is about the impeachment of the president. Impeachment of the president. This was in news. This was in news because in USA, the president impeachment, that has happened. Though president is not removed, but the impeachment process has started in the United States when Donald Trump was the president. Okay. So, as the topic of impeachment came, we will just briefly discuss the president eligibility in India and president election, and also we will see some differences between the president of India and president of United States. Okay. So now, first we will see president eligibility. So, in India, the president has to have minimum of 35 years in order to contest as a president. Minimum of 35 years, and he has to be a citizen of India. He has to be citizen of India, and he should be eligible for Lok Sabha elections. So this is broadly the criteria or the eligibility criteria for a person to contest as the president. And if you see the election of president, the people who are eligible to vote in the presidential elections are the MLA, the elected MLA, the elected MP of both the state as well as the union territory. So these people are eligible to vote in the presidential election. But if you see in the presidential election, the nominated MPs of Rajya Sabha are not eligible for voting. The nominated MPs of Rajya Sabha are not eligible for voting, and also the legislative council members in the state. There are 6 states which have legislative council. Also, these members are not eligible to vote. These members are not eligible to vote. Okay. So this is all about the president's eligibility and president's election. Now we will see the impeachment of or impeachment difference between India and US simultaneously, and we will talk about the impeachment. So impeachment is nothing but the removal. Impeachment is nothing but removal. Removal. Guys, this PT365, I'm telling, it will be very important for all kind of competitive exams that you are going to write after the pandemic, means after the lockdown and all, when the institutions get opened and when the exams will be conducted. This polity and all the summaries what we are going to provide, this will be very helpful for you to ensure that you score highest in the exam, because these current affairs what we are covering along with the static part, because the current and the static both are important for you from the examination point of view, both the current and the static. And this is what we are going to try to do in these documents. We are going to provide all the analysis and the required knowledge for you, so that once you listen to this summary, things get very clear for you and you can attempt the questions a bit more easily. Okay. Now let's get back to this. Let's get back to the impeachment process of the president and the difference between the impeachment in India and USA. Okay. But before we go into this, it's very important for us to understand the difference between the president of India and the president of United States. We'll see that. The differences, if you see, in India, president is the head of the state. So you can say he's only the ceremonial head. The ceremonial head. But in the United States, president is both head of the state and head of the government. That means he is both ceremonial and the executive head also. The ceremonial head and executive head also. Right? So this is the major difference you can say. The second major difference is that in India, the term of president is 5 years and there is no limit about how many times a person can contest for president. But if you take United States, a person can contest for a maximum, or you can say a person can be a president of United States for only 2 terms, of 4 years each. That means the maximum term of president of United States is 4 years, and he can be president only for maximum of 2 terms. Okay. Next one, the president of India is part of the parliament. The president of India is part of the parliament. But in the United States, the president is not part of the parliament. Here in the United States, you have a watertight separation between the legislature and the executive. There is a watertight separation between legislature and executive. But in India, if you see, the legislature and executive both are actually combined. The executive is responsible to the legislature. The executive is answerable to the legislature. But this is different in the United States. Okay. Here in India, the president act on the advice of the prime minister and his council. But in the United States, the president is head of the executive himself, so he is not answerable, or he don't take commands from anyone. And also another important difference is that For a person to become president of India, it is just enough for him to be an Indian citizen. But it's not the same with respect to US. A person who wants to be a US citizen has to be born in United States. This is the major difference you can say. So tomorrow, if Sonia Gandhi wants to become Indian president, she can become Indian president because she is a citizen of India. But if, let's say, for example, Sundar Pichai, who is currently the Google CEO, is born in India, who is born in India, if he want to become US president, he cannot become because he is not born in United States. So this is just an example, guys. I'm not saying this will happen. This is just an example for you to understand. Okay. Now we will see the impeachment process. We will see the impeachment process. So this impeachment process is different in India and USA. Now what are these differences? First, the ground for impeachment is the first difference between India and United States. In India, a president is impeached for violation of constitution. For what? For violation of the constitution. But in United States, a president is impeached for treason, bribery, or any other high crimes. So treason means, so it's basically compromising. That means if a person is not or is betraying the government, then it can be called as treason. Okay. So now who can initiate the impeachment? So in India, in either house of the parliament, the president impeachment process can be initiated. But in the United States, only in the lower house, the president impeachment has to be initiated. Only in the lower house. Okay. Now we will see the process of impeachment. The process of impeachment. In the state. Now we will talk about Indian process first. In India, one-fourth members of the House, one-fourth members of the House, be it Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, has to sign for the document or for the process to start. Okay, one-fourth members has to sign for the process to start. So when one-fourth members sign for the president impeachment, then a 14-day notice is given to the president. 14-day notice is given to the president, and after the 14-day notice, two-third majority of that bill basically for the president impeachment, and that bill has to be passed by two-third majority of total house. By two-third majority of total house, it has to be passed. If this bill is passed with two-third majority of total house, then it is sent to the next house for investigation. It is sent to the next house for investigation. There, the second house will investigate, and if the second house feels that the charges are sustained, the charges can remain, then this bill has to be passed in the second house also with the two-third majority of total house. That means same like that of the previous house, it has to be passed with two-third majority of total house. Now we will talk about the process of removal of president in United States. In United States, first in the lower house, the trial will start with a simple majority. The trial will start with a simple majority. After the trial starts, the matter will go to the upper house. The matter will go to the upper house. Then in the upper house, which is Senate, it acts like a court. It acts like a court and it will investigate. If it finds the charges, then then that bill for the president impeachment has to be passed with two-thirds of Senate votes. It has to be passed with two-thirds of Senate votes. Okay. So this is what is the basic impeachment process in both India and United States. So in India, it is one-fourth of members signing the charges, but in the United States, it is just a simple majority in the first stage, in the lower house. Okay. Right. This is what is about impeachment and the differences between Indian president and United States president. We'll move on to the next topic. So the next topic is about the pardoning power of the governor and the president. So there's a difference between the pardoning power of both governor and president, and this was in news. Now we will see the differences. So the president has much greater or much broader pardoning powers, you can say, much broader pardoning powers, and the governor has limited pardoning powers. Governor has limited pardoning powers. Now we will see what is that. The president can grant pardon to any person for who is convicted of any offense under the Indian law, either union law, state law, court martial, or death sentence. So president can grant pardon to any person in India who is convicted in any kind of offense or by any law. Okay, that is the main thing. Even by a court martial and for any death sentence also, president can grant a pardon. But the governor, if you see, the governor cannot grant pardon for the court martial. Governor cannot grant pardon for the court martial, and also the governor cannot grant pardon for the death sentence. cannot grant pardon for the death sentence. Even if that person is convicted under the state law, the person or the governor cannot grant this death sentence. Okay, but the governor can grant other kinds of pardons, like kinds of sentences. Okay, like the commutation, remission, respite. So all these things can be granted by the government, but not pardoning power, but not the pardon. Okay. So now we will see what are these things individually. First, what is pardon? Pardon means it removes both sentence and conviction and completely absolves convict from all kinds of sentences, punishments, and disqualifications. Okay. So pardoning means basically removing of all kinds of sentences, not even a single sentence. Like even let's say he's convicted under the Atrocities Act or any other kind under the Terrorist Act or any other thing. The president can pardon everything. The president can remove all the charges and the president can set that person free. That is the major power that the president has. But here, remember one thing: the president acts on the advice of the prime minister. This is the major thing. The president acts on the advice. He does not act independently. Okay. And next one is the commutation. Commutation means substitution. Remember, substitution of one form of sentence to a lighter form. So substitution of one form of, that means the higher form to a lighter form. That is called commutation. Commute, changing. Next is remission. Remission simply means reducing period of sentence. The type of punishment will not be changed, but the period of punishment will be changed. That is what is remission. Remission means reduction. Next is respite. Respite means due to a special fact. Either, let's say, for example, a pregnant woman is convicted. That means because of that special fact, for that pregnant woman, the type of sentence or the type of punishment can be changed. So that is what is respite. That means because of a special fact, the punishment of that person is changing. That is called as respite. Next, reprieve. Reprieve simply means stay of execution of sentence. Stay of execution of sentence. Especially this we will talk in terms of, in case of death sentence only for a temporary period. This is called as reprieve. Reprieve means stay of execution of sentence. Okay. Now if you see governor, governor can also grant pardon, reprieve, respite, remission, and or other things. Okay, but that has to be the governor can use this only if a person is convicted under the state law, but president can use this even if it's for a state law or center law or court martial or any other thing. Okay, but here remember, the governor cannot use the pardoning power in case of death sentence and in case of court martial. Pardoning in case of death sentence and court martial, the governor cannot use his power. So the governor can suspend, remit, or commute the death sentence. The only thing is he cannot pardon a death sentence. Only pardoning power is not there. Okay, but rest of the powers the governor can use. Right? Okay. Next, if you compare the pardoning power of of India and President of the United States, in United States, pardon or commuting sentence is related to federal crime and it is granted without limit and can't be restricted. So the President of the United States has unlimited power when we talk about pardoning. He has unlimited power. He can pardon any kind of sentence, any kind of crime, for any kind of crime, any kind of sentence, the governor can grant pardon for any law. But when we talk about India, the president act on the advice of the cabinet under Article 72. So there are certain limitations. Also, the president is answerable. Okay. So these are the limitations you can say. So this is the basic difference between the president of India and president of the United States pardoning power. Right? Now let's move on to the next topic. The next topic is about the sub categorization of OBCs. Guys, one more important thing is now most of you will be preparing for the mains. But trust me, without all this knowledge, you cannot write an answer in mains. So if you just keep on listening to these summaries, you can even revise your static part just while eating or while doing some work, while doing workout or any other thing. If you just keep some earphones and if you just listen to these summaries, this will help you to revise your current part and revise your static part. Both of these things will help both in prelims and mains. Both in prelims and mains. If you keep on listening to these summaries, what will happen? You will just keep on revising these things. When you keep on revising these things, you will become more strong in the core areas. When you become more strong in the core areas, the chance of you making a mistake in the prelims reduces and this will increase your chance to clear the prelims because as you know, the number of vacancies in prelims is just 792 this year. So you just have to be more focused and you have to work much harder, right? Now we will talk about this next topic. We'll get back to this. We will talk about the subcategorization of OBCs. So, as you all might have already read previously, there is this committee, the Justice Rohini Committee, Justice Rohini Commission. Okay, this commission was established in, or was set up in 2017. Okay, so that it will investigate the condition of backward classes and it will give certain recommendations with regard to the subcategorization of OBCs. And Justice Rohini Commission was established under Article 340 of the Constitution. Okay, so when we talk about the OBC reservation, this was established, or this OBC reservation was started way back, you can say in 1970s. In 1970s, there is a commission appointed by the then Janta government in 1979, the Mandal Commission. And this Mandal Commission, it has said that 27% of reservation has to be given to the OBCs. This Mandal Commission said that. And this was implemented in 1990 by the government, by the Rajiv Gandhi government, and it has announced that 27% of reservation in jobs in central government services and PSUs under Article 16(4) is being given to the OBCs. But the matter now went to the Supreme Court. The matter now went to the Supreme Court, and in the famous Indira Savani judgment, the Supreme Court gave certain guidelines, and this case is also called the Mandal Commission case. Supreme Court gave certain judgment, certain guidelines. The Supreme Court said that reservation is to bring, or you can say the reservation is to uplift the lower classes. But the reservation should not be a discrimination against the upper classes. You are right in giving reservation to the lower classes, but this reservation should not discriminate the upper classes. Should not discriminate the upper classes. So for that only, in order to ensure that there is no discrimination for the upper classes, Supreme Court suggested for this 50% reservation cap. Supreme Court suggested for this 50% reservation cap, wherein which the reservation should not cross 50% is what the Supreme Court said. It should not cross 50%. And also Supreme Court said that we have to introduce the creamy layer, because in OBCs, especially in OBC reservation, this creamy layer has to be introduced. Because if you see the OBC, the OBC is a very, you can say it's a very diversified community. It has lot of castes in it. Some people are very high class in OBCs also. They are very, you can say in some states they even enjoy this upper class status. So there has to be certain criteria, and that criteria, what Supreme Court said, is a creamy layer criteria. Because the main aim of the reservation is to uplift the lower class people, lower class. And Supreme Court, using this creamy layer, has said that people who earn below 8 lakhs, they can be considered as lower class. What is the Supreme Court said, right? Next, the Supreme Court also said that a household with an annual income of 8 lakhs or above, Supreme Court said that a household with annual income of 8 lakhs above is classified as creamy layer among OBCs and hence is not eligible for reservations. Okay, the government, Supreme Court said this, and even the government also implemented this. The government also implemented this. Okay, right. Now we will see this. Subcategory. So, following the Supreme Court guidelines, the government, it has capped 8 lakhs as the income for attaining or for obtaining the OBC reservation. So people below this 8 lakhs income are considered as non-creamy layer and they will be getting the reservation. But people above 8 lakhs income, they will be considered as creamy layer and they will not get any reservation. Okay. So, so now let's talk about this idea of this subcategorization. So subcategorization means division of OBC community, because OBC community basically it is combination of lot of other communities and it is a very heterogeneous. That means in this OBC community there are a lot of communities which are, some communities are above, or you can say they are much higher class and some communities are much lower class. So the OBC is actually combination of various kinds of classes of people. It's a very heterogeneous community. So subcategorization is very much important because this subcategorization will allow the government to ensure that the reservation will reach the people who need the most. Because if you take 100 people, let's take for example 100 people in OBC, Out of these 100 people, all might not belong to the educationally and social, all might not be educationally and socially backward. Out of 100 people, 10 people, or you can say let's 20 people are educationally or socially and educationally very backward. Another 20 to 30 people are backward in, you can say they're mediumly backward, or some people are very highly backward, or some people are very less backward. So depending on their backwardness they can get the reservation. If government can ensure this, then people who are actually in need of any reservation, people who are in need of the reservation, they will be getting the actual benefit, because this is what is the ultimate aim of reservation, which is nothing but upliftment of people, right? So this first backward class commission in 1955, it is also proposed for the subcategorization of OBCs. It has also proposed for this subcategorization of OBCs into backward and extremely backward community. The National Commission for Backward Classes in 2015, it has proposed to divide OBC into three categories: extremely backward, more backward, and backward, based on the backwardness. Okay. Now, if you see, there are 11 states where the subcategorization is already done. The states like Andhra, Telangana, Puducherry, etc. Their subcategorization is already done. See, from the examination point of view, there is no need to remember all the 11 states, but we just need to know there are some states where subcategorization of OBC is already done. Okay, the OBC is divided into BCA, BCB, BCC, and BCD. So, depending on their backwardness, they get the reservation. Okay. So basically, who are OBCs? OBCs are the educationally and socially disadvantaged people in our society. So educational and social backwardness, if you say, it's a very broad term. Education and social backwardness, it's a very broad term. If you take SC and ST, so it's a very limited term. SC and ST means. So matlab hai, there are very few people who can be classified as SC or ST. But this is not the same with OBC. If you take OBC community, people from very broad spectrum come into this ambit. Okay, that is the reason we need this subcategorization of this OBC. Okay, now we will see some information about the NCBC, the National Commission for Backward Classes, which was made a constitutional body, which was made as a, which sorry, which was made as a constitutional body in recent times. Okay, this NCBC originally it was a statutory body. It was a statutory body under the NCBC Act, but under this 102nd Constitutional Amendment Act, it was made a constitutional body. Guys, you have to focus. It is 123rd Constitutional Amendment Bill and 102nd Constitutional Amendment Act. There is a difference between Act and Bill. Every bill that is introduced in the Parliament will not become an act. So if a bill which is introduced in the Parliament, if it is not passed by either house of the Parliament, then it will not become an act. But if it is passed by both houses of the Parliament, then it will become an act. Then it can be called as a Constitutional Amendment Act. Okay, so this NCBC is 102nd Constitutional Amendment Act and 123rd Constitutional Amendment Bill. Bill is something, you can say, a proposal which is introduced in the Parliament. But Act means something which is passed by the Parliament. Okay, that is the basic difference, right? So if you see the composition of NCBC, it has 5 members who are appointed by the President, and all the other service conditions are determined by the President himself. So it will have chairman and 5 members. Okay, it will have 5 members including the chairman. Yeah. So what is the main task or main job of this NCBC? First, you can say it has to recommend the inclusion and exclusion of people, or you can say inclusion and exclusion of caste from the OBC section. Okay, this is one. And if you see the other ones, it can inquire into complaint for the deprivation of right or for the safeguarding of rights of the OBC. If the rights of the OBC are deprived, or if there is any need for safeguarding rights of OBC, then this NCBC will come into picture, because it has power of a judicial. It has power of a judiciary. That means it is a quasi-judicial body. It is a quasi-judicial body. Okay, right. So this is all about the NCBC. Now we'll move to the next news. The next news is about the Official Language Act. So Supreme Court CJI, he has recommended for amending this Official Language Act of 1963 to include more vernacular language in the governance and not just Hindi and English. Because Hindi and English are not going to unite the whole country. Because uniting whole country should be the aim, should be the ultimate aim. So for uniting the whole country, it is this language that plays a very key role. The language plays a very key role. Because if you see the lower strata of the society, they need more support, or you can say they need more information. And for them to get more information, the communication should happen in the vernacular language, because it is this language which they will speak and write. Even if they are literate, even if they are literate, most of the people can understand and read only their native language. So the vernacular have to be focused more. That is why even in the national educational policy, the government talked about this vernacular language, the vernacular language. All right. Now we will see about this Official Language Act, the Official Language Act of 1963. So the Official Language Act of 1963, so both Hindi and English are to be used for certain purposes like rules, general orders, notifications, press communication, administrative and other reports. Okay, so clearly according to this Official Language Act, only Hindi and English is being used officially and not other languages. But we need other languages so that more and more people can get accurate government information, because ultimately what is the aim of governance? To empower people and to you know to do justice to the people. That should be the ultimate aim of any governance of any system, right? Now we will see some constitutional provisions related to the official language. The part 18 of the constitution deals with the official languages, the part 18. And the 8th schedule, if you see, it has 22 languages. The Bodo, Dogri, Maithili, and Santali, they were added by the 92nd Constitutional Amendment Act of 2003. Article 343(1) say that Hindi in Devanagari script shall be the official language of the Union. So according to this article, Article 343, Hindi is used as the official language of the central government. Article 343 subclause 3 say that English will be continued even post January 1965. So initially, when the British left, India is in the chain of, so even that time, India, you can say the bureaucracy, they are used to the customs and all the things what the Britishers used to do. So English was used as the main language of communication because the Britishers can understand only English. So all the system is in English. Now suddenly when the constitution is formed, they cannot change it completely from English. So that is the reason English was continued till 1965. So during the making of constitution, they said that post 1965, the government on that day will decide whether English will be continued or not. But governments of the day in 1965 decided that post 1965 also English will be used in communication, because if you see North India and South India, the language which can unite them, either North India, South India, East India, West India, it is English more than Hindi. Because you see a lot of South Indian states, they can understand English in a much better way and not Hindi. So English is currently, you can say, it's a uniting language of the whole of India. Okay. So this is about this Article 343 subclause 3, and Article 344 subclause 1. It says that it talks about the constitution of a commission by the president on the expiration of 5 years of the commencement of constitution. This is to decide the languages which we have discussed already. And Article 348(1) say that all proceedings of Supreme Court and High Court, that means the proceedings of Supreme Court and High Court, shall be in English until Parliament by law says otherwise. That means all High Court and Supreme Court judgments and everything, they will be in Hindi and English only. So as we spoke already, if only Hindi and English is followed, then local people or people in the backward regions, they will face difficulties. They cannot reach or they cannot get any accurate information. This will be the major drawback. Okay. Next, Article 351, it talks about spreading of Hindi language to develop so that it may serve as a medium of expression of all the elements of the composite culture of India. So the constitutional makers initially wanted Hindi to be the uniting language of the India, because if the whole of India can speak one language, can understand one language, then it's very easy even in the governance, and also it's very easy, or you can say it will integrate the society in a much in a much deeper way, right? Next, another important thing what we have to know is the classical languages. There are 6 classical languages in India. First one Sanskrit, second Tamil, third Kannada, fourth Telugu, 5 Odia, and 6 Malayalam. So these are the classical languages of the country. And remember, there is no Hindi in classical languages. There is no Hindi in classical languages. And who will declare the classical languages? It is the Minister of Culture. So what is the criteria for this classical language? We will discuss in the culture aspect, in the culture PT365. Okay. So basically it has to have a long history and it has to have written publications and all, which we will discuss in the culture aspect. Okay, but here just remember that there are 6 classical languages and the Ministry of Culture declares the classical language. These are the important things that we have to remember. Now we'll move on to the next news. So the next it is about the important thing is about the Central Institute of Indian Languages, CIIL. So the CIIL basically it's a subordinate office in the Ministry of Education. It is to coordinate development of Indian languages. So developing Indian languages is the main aim. And also another important aim of this is to promote linguistic harmony by teaching languages to the non-native learners. So if you can teach a person from Delhi, Tamil or Kannada, then he can understand the culture of Tamil Nadu or Karnataka, and he can integrate in a much deeper way into these societies of either Tamil Nadu or Karnataka, right? So language is a major barrier for people to understand culture of other states. So to break this and to promote harmony among the people, there is promotion of this languages to the non-native learners. And also CIL organizes number of programs like development of Indian languages, regional language centers and national testing services, etc. etc. Okay, so this is about the Central Language Institution, Central Institute of Indian Languages, which is under Ministry of Education. Remember, this is under the Ministry of Education, and this Ministry of Education earlier it used to be called as HRD Ministry, but now its name was changed to Ministry of Education. Okay, right. We'll move on to the next important news. The next important news is about the right to protest. The right to protest. If you see the fundamental rights in the country, they are very important to us. They are very important to us because they ensure the objectives of the Constitution, which are talked about in the preamble. The preamble talks about the objectives of the Constitution, and the achieving of these objectives is only through the fundamental rights. The fundamental rights ensure that the political justice the political justice is ensured to the people. The political justice is ensured to the people because the economic and social justice is talked about in the DPSP. The economic and the political justice is talked about in the DPSP, and it is only through these fundamental rights the political justice is ensured to all the people, and they are important for the survival of the people in the country. Okay, and this Article 19, if you see specifically, it's Article 19. It's talking about the political democracy, and it can be said as heart of political democracy. It can be said as article democracy because it ensures the freedom and rights to the people, the important rights to the people. It gives the freedom of speech, expression, right to demonstration or picketing. It also say that there is no right to strike, but it gives the freedom of speech, expression, or right to demonstration to the people. It gives the right to assemble for the people. It gives the right for the people to assemble without any arms. So this is Article 19(1)(a) and Article 19(1)(b). We will see others also, other sub-articles also. The Article 19(1)(c) talks about the formation of association or union by the people. And Article 19(1)(d) say that people can move freely throughout India. People can move freely throughout India from different state to state. Okay, that means people can move and also can settle anywhere in India, which is talked about in Article 19(1) subclause E. Okay, and there is another article, Article 19(1)(f), which say that people are free to practice any profession. There is no limitation that this set of people can practice only this profession or something like that. People are free to practice any kind of profession. All these rights are given to the people by the Article 19 of the Constitution. So but these articles are not absolute. There are limitations. There are limitations which is talked about by the Article 19(2) and 19(3). Okay, reasonable restrictions are imposed. So this right to protest, the Supreme Court said that people have this right to protest which is imbibed or which is already there in Article 19(1)(a), because the right to protest came into the news during the farmer protest. During the farmer protest, because the farmers are protesting against the farmers. So during this time, this matter went to the Supreme Court, and Supreme Court said this. So tomorrow in exam, there can be a question about this right to protest. So right to protest comes under which article? It comes under Article 19, okay, 19(1)(a) and 19(1)(b). Next, there is another news about this hate speech. So hate speech basically means commenting or you can say spreading hatred with respect to a specific kind of community. This is nothing but hate speech. Supreme Court in Amish Devgan versus Union of India case said that this hate speech repudiates right to equality. Right to equality is ensured by the Constitution under Article 14. Right to equality is ensured. So this hate speech is going to repudiate this article, or you can say it's going to repudiate this equality, because equality is something which is very important for the people living in the country. So this hate speech is something, it is going to spoil the country. You can say it is going to spoil the integrity and unity of the country. So hate speech should not be encouraged. So hate speech is nothing but creating or spreading hatred with respect to a specific type with respect to specific community. Okay, and the people who practice this hate speech, they will be punished and will be dealt with IPC sections like section 153A, 295, etc. And no need to remember all these sections and all. Just remember what is hate speech and etc. And remember what is this case. This can be used in the mains answer writing. Okay, so that's it, friends. That's it for the day. We'll meet again with the next two chapters soon in the next video. Till then, keep studying and stay tuned to VOWIAS. Jai Hind. Thank you.